The purpose of the Electoral College is to give balance to the states and to extend the representation in Congress to the elections for the president. When you vote for the president, your vote is not automatically tallied to the president. Instead, you're voting for your state's electors who have pledged to vote for their party's candidate. And the electors then later actually cast a vote in your state's capital for the president or the vice president. That sounds complicated and it sounds like it's stifling democracy, but the idea is to give a little extra weight to the small states who otherwise wouldn't really have a say in the election. Because they have so small populations, presidents might not even care about going to those states. They would instead flock to the big states and only do their speeches and gear towards that state's politics. At the founding, we had these colonies who were vastly different in terms of political ideology, in terms of industry. It was incredibly difficult to get everyone to a point where they felt comfortable with the Constitution and they felt willing to surrender some of their sovereignty to a nation and to agree to govern together. And in order to do that, the founders had to come up with a system that satisfied the desires of the big states who wanted more representation and the small states who were fearful of getting trampled upon. And so there was a lot of fighting about how to properly represent them. And ultimately, we just got a compromise. We got the Senate, which favors the small states. We got the House of Representatives, which favors the big states. And then we have the Electoral College, which extends our system of government in Congress. That is, each state has as many electors as it has representatives and senators in Congress. So 2 and however many representatives it has. And that protects the small states because it gives each state at least a little bit of an equal vote in that they each have 2 senators, but it also gives bigger states the sway that they should have because they have a higher population and the number of representatives is based on the number of the population. These states do have different tendencies and they have different geography, which leads to different agriculture, different industries, different histories, and this leads them to have different tendencies, and we should see all of those opinions that flow from those characteristics represented in the president, and it forces the presidential candidates to pay attention to the various interests across the country rather than focusing on the ones with the most population. One way we can judge the Electoral College is that historically there have not been that many instances of the candidate who did not win the popular vote winning the Electoral College. There have been instances of that happening, but it is usually pretty rare. So we know that it's functioning almost like a democracy in terms of outcome, and yet it is forcing those candidates to pay attention to the other states and giving them a say in the election. A lot of people complain that the Electoral College stifles democracy, but the founders never intended us to be a direct democracy. Democracies have a tendency to trample on the rights of the minority, and so they deliberately set up our system of government to protect individual liberty and to protect the minority's rights from being trampled upon. It doesn't have to be this way. The Electoral College is pretty unregulated by the Constitution. The Constitution establishes it, but states are very free to set up their system of electors. Many states are signing on to the National Interstate Popular Vote Compact, and a certain number of states have vowed to throw their electoral votes to the popular vote once a certain number of states agree that have the majority of the Electoral College votes. And so once we get to that point, the Electoral College really won't matter because the majority of electoral votes will go to the popular vote no matter what. But for now, we're pretty safely in the electoral camp. If you enjoyed this video, click the like button, add a comment, or subscribe and hit the bell.